The first step in setting up a positive system is to create the chart of accounts. So once you've opened up the main screen, you go to Accounting. Then you select the Chart of Accounts. Now Positive will give you a default chart of accounts. This default can be used and then added additional GL accounts so that the setups in the GL setup will have the same numbers as these GL accounts. However, if you wish to erase all these accounts and put in your own accounts, that's done just as easily by hitting the delete key for the accounts. So let's go over to our expenses, and here you see what we have for expenses. Now I'm going to create an expense account that is not an expense that's related to a sale or a cost of good. This expense is kind of like general operating expenses. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look for an area that I want to kind of put a gap in. And as I see here, I have a 4475-001. That 001 is a way for you to break up your GL accounts by divisions, or if you have multi-site, by companies. So what we're going to do is we're going to click Add. And then we're going to move this to the side so we can see our accounts here. And I'm going to make this expense account, I'm going to call it 44,472-001. If that account exists, it will tell you that account cannot be used because it's existing. For my description, I'm going to put AUTO expense. And I only have one division at this time. It's called the retail division. And so down here, I'm going to put this in as an expense account. The header is accounts that are put in at the top of each of these groups. You cannot post to a header. You can only post to the account below the header. So by hitting the OK key, I now have that particular account in my system. And here you see auto expense. Now, once I build my chart of accounts, my next step is to go into GL Setup. In GL Setup, I have all the different default GL accounts that the system is going to use, because it's not going to prompt you in most cases for a GL account. It's going to look at these defaults. So for my assets, you can see I've got my cash accounts, receivables, my inventory. All these accounts match the accounts that are in my chart of accounts. Same thing with liabilities. I put in my accounts payable, my sales tax payable. Purchases clearing is here when you take and bring something in on a purchase order, and your GL transaction will be a debit to inventory, a credit to purchases clearing. When you get the actual invoice in, you will be debiting purchases clearing and crediting accounts payable. So this gives you the ability to recognize what invoices have yet to be received. So you'll have your payables of 80,000, and maybe you'll have 20,000 in purchases clearing, and those are dollars that we're waiting for the actual invoices to arrive. My sales accounts, defaults for sales, my cost of sales, if you have multi-site, you can suggest that you want to share the intercompany payables and receivables. In the other, you have your things like store payouts and discounts and deposits when someone gives you, and you make a deposit for, let's say, insurance deposits or something like that. That's all in my other grouping. Period maintenance, we are allowing you to lock out periods so they can't post to those periods, and you keep them nice and clean and no one will put wrong dates in. We have AR setups. We've got AP setups, defaults, year-end close to my retained earnings. On my GL accounts, it gives you kind of a recap, like a chart of accounts of everything that's going on. Here are categories. If you have vendors that you've used as a category in inventory, you can have specific GL accounts on a per vendor basis. Some people use vendors, other people use groupings like equipment, small wares, things like that as their departments. Tax rates, you can set up all your tax rates GL accounts if you want to keep them separately. My vendor list, if you want certain vendors when you get their invoices to go to a certain payables account, or if you buy something from that vendor like an office expense and you want it to go right to that expense account from that vendor. We do have a QuickBooks interface that'll tie into the QuickBooks General Ledger for your accountant. We also have budgets that you can set up your budgets for this year and look at what last year's actual and last year's budgets were. Verify GL balances. This is a method that people may use every few months to verify that the GL is all in balance and all the headers and the detail lines match. Never hit reset the default, otherwise it puts your GL accounts back to factory. And then here you can print out your GL interface by clicking this, and you'll get your GL accounts. So that's the general ledger and the GL setup. Thank you.